Okay, next it would be the last one of our session today is I would like to respectfully invite to Mr. Tylor Burrows, who had taught at universities in Asia, the Middle East, and North America. He has published on higher education and served on academic journal boards as a reviewer and editor with degrees in computer science and applied linguistics. He's completing a PhD in organizational studies in education. He currently holds a position at I-Shou University, Taiwan, where he engages primarily in educational developments, student support, and undergraduate teaching. Welcome, Mr. Tylor Burrows, to the seminar stage.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to the organizers for putting this together. I've been very impressed with the work that you guys have done. It isn't easy to put on a conference, and doing it online gives so many extra challenges. And we've seen a lot of technical challenges in the past 2 days. And for older teachers who maybe aren't comfortable using the technology, this might make them not want to try. But I think it's important that we at least try. And a lot of the technical challenges can be overcome. I first started teaching with a university in China in 2003. So maybe that's about the time some of you were born. And back then, YouTube was quite new. And I remember the first time I tried to show an internet video in a class, and I had to reserve a special classroom with the projector at that time. And then the video wouldn't play because the internet connection wasn't good enough. So, what I learned from that as a teacher, and what I still do now, and I teach students who study with me, is always download your YouTube videos. There's websites that you can use to download YouTube videos, and that way, if your internet connection doesn't work, or if the power goes out, which happened to me at another university, as I was teaching, the power went out. But I still had my laptop, so I could show my video. And things like this are one reason that I don't use stuff like Kahoot in the classroom. Anything that relies on an online technology, as we saw with the last presentation, if you need to go online in the class, sometimes it's not going to work. So what I always try to do is prepare my classes in such a way that I don't need the internet and I don't need electricity. I see the value of Kahoot, and some of the professors I work with here use Kahoot, and it looks like fun, and we enjoy it in class when they use it. So there's advantages and disadvantages, but never be afraid to try and find a way to work around the technology. Another thing I found is that when I first started doing computer assisted language learning work in 2006, so again, quite a while ago, all of the technology I used at that time no longer exists. So all of the work that I put into making these things, in the end, these things are gone. They're not on the internet anymore. They can't be. So if you do put in the time to produce things, make sure you copy and paste your texts, your multiple choice questions into things like PowerPoint and Microsoft Word, so you can still use them again and again years later. And yeah, so these are some things that I made notes on. Actually, a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about in my time today has been covered by other people. Which is good. The technology is changing very fast, and Gamma, for example, I made a presentation for our professors here about using AI, and I wanted to find free software for making PPTs. And this was in August of last year, just a few months ago. And I couldn't find good free software for generating PPT. And then in, I think it was October, one of my colleagues showed me Gamma. So Gamma is quite new. A year ago, we didn't have Gamma. But AI isn't going away. This is changing the world. And for teachers, we have to assume, like one of our last professors said, or not professors, I'm sorry, one of our last presenters said that he was lazy, so he would use Gamma. I don't think it's just about laziness. And one of the other last presenters said teachers are busy. Well, students are busy too. So students will use it and they should use it because when they go into work, they should use it. And as teachers, that means that we have to teach our students to use it and we have to assume that our students will use it. But it doesn't mean that teachers will be replaced by AI 100%. I think there will always be a need for human beings who can work with human beings. And in some cases, this is because, as was mentioned earlier, not every young student will have a smartphone in the classroom. Not every classroom will have a projector for computers. But I first started doing online learning work back in 2006. And something I learned was that I prefer to be in a classroom. And it makes me think about human beings sitting around fires for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years. Human beings have sat around fires, telling stories and talking to people. And I think this is an important part of how we learn. And that is not going to change with AI. So, teachers, don't be afraid that you're not going to have your job, but remember that the students need and will use it and should. And so that's just from my notes from the past few days. And now let's oh wait, I need to share the screen. Screen. Okay. I didn't download the smart virtual thing, so are you looking at my PPT now?
Yes, I see.
Can see it.
Okay. So,
Just a quick question. How do you
yes,
pronounce your university name?
I-Shou.
I-Shou. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's
I've,
spelled
I've been saying I-Shou for quite some time.
yeah, it's spelled with an I here. I don't know exactly why. And in other places, our organization, not the university, but I'll mention the organization in a bit, sometimes uses an E, which is a better sound. Um, but if I was writing the Chinese, I would write with a Y-I. So it's a little bit unusual. But you could just remember I-S-U also. So I-Shou, I-S-U. Thank you for your question. And I might add, if anybody has any questions at any time, I won't be following the chat, but you are welcome to just interrupt me and ask a question at any time. So, moving on. This is an abstract that I sent for the organizers. We don't need that. So I planned a little introduction about where I am here at I-Shou and what I do. And most of what I wanted to show was practical applications. And actually, we've seen a lot of practical applications in the past 2 days. For me, it was a little over a year ago, ChatGPT was first released. It's so new. And after a few months of reading about it and seeing in the news, and knowing that I was going to teach a writing course, I decided to try it out. So I started using it in my teaching last February, a year ago now, and I've used it quite a bit. And I wanted to share some of those examples. So, first, the institutional context. Sorry, I'm afraid that we're losing the titles. First, the institutional context of where I am at I-Shou University. Um, it's a lovely campus, and it is located in Taiwan. Funny thing about formerly teaching in Thailand, where I used to work, and working in Taiwan now, is sometimes when I'm speaking, I want to say Taiwan, but I say Thailand, or sometimes I want to say Thailand and I say Taiwan. My poor old brain gets confused. But you guys know Taiwan is not Thailand. And Taiwan is a lovely country. I'm very glad I chose to come here a few years ago. And I came because of COVID, actually. It was a major reason to choose Taiwan. It was the only country in the world that was looking to have a growing economy in the years of COVID because of their high tech economy. And because it's an island and they closed the borders very quickly, COVID didn't come in. And they used hotel quarantine on anyone who did come in. So I was living in Canada and everything was closed. We had lines to go into the grocery stores, no restaurants. It was awful. And here in Taiwan, people were going to movie theaters. And so, yeah, I'm very glad I chose Taiwan. And within Taiwan, I'm in a place called Kaohsiung City, which is a large port city. You can see a bit of the port there in that photo. And Kaohsiung is, yeah, it's a nice city as well. Beautiful weather here. We have over 300 days of sunshine every year. And going back to the question of the I in I-Shou, I said sometimes the group uses an E. So my university is actually part of a large private organization, and they have a lot of businesses, especially steel and hospitality. We have hotels. They just opened up a new Marriott hotel, which is a famous international chain. And so my group, or the group that I work for, partnered with Marriott for a new hotel, shopping malls, hospitals, and you see in the bottom right corner there, education, the university where I work. So it's a private university. Um, Here's a picture of our campus, lovely campus, nice red brick buildings, lots of facilities for students, basketball, tennis, swimming. And we have over 13,000 students now, including, or when this image was made, including almost 15,000 overseas students. And we do a lot of exchanges over 600 sister universities in other countries. So I work in a very international environment, which is great. And a lot of my work is with professors, um, teaching professors to teach in English. And traditionally, the professors would teach in Chinese. And as we try and expand our international programs and bring in more international students from around the world, it's helpful to teach more classes in English. And some of our professors who studied overseas, they're great, they have no problems. But to try and bring everyone on board, um, I get to work with professors from engineering and medicine and film and all sorts of different disciplines. It's lots of fun. Our main English taught programs are one is artificial intelligence, which is kind of interesting. We have a whole bachelor's degree program that focuses on AI. And Taiwan's a great place for technology. The computer chips that you guys are using now in your smartphones and computers and cars, most of the chips in the world, especially the advanced chips, they're all made in Taiwan. And we also have a full international college where we have different departments. International business is one where I have done some teaching myself. And yeah, we're actually integrating AI across all of our programs. And we offer AI camps to visiting high school students. And we have Chinese language and culture camps as well. Um, Here is a sample schedule for a robotics and automation camp. Because we're a private company, we're very well resourced. We have lots of interesting robots and computer controls, engineering machines. And so, yeah, here's another view of our campus. It's quite lovely at the edge of town. And it's an interesting thing because the university is owned by a company that owns shopping malls. So we have a shopping mall and amusement park across the street from the university. So sometimes at lunch, instead of having lunch at the university, I can just go across the street and have lunch at the mall. Maybe do a
I
little
was
shopping.
wondering why there was a Ferris wheel there.
Yeah, the Ferris wheel is an attraction as part of the mall. There's also two large hotels down there, and um, yeah, this photo doesn't capture on the far right a larger amusement park with more rides. I actually haven't been down there to go on those rides yet. Busy with work, but I have been on the Ferris wheel, which gives a nice view. You can't see it in this photo, but to the left or to the that would be the west. From the top of the Ferris wheel, you have a view of the city, and on a clear day, you can see to the edge of the city where the ocean is. And to the right, as you can see, we start to get the more forested part of Taiwan. Yeah, but the Ferris wheel's fun ride, and it's just a thing to attract people to come to the mall. Right. So me, um, my bachelor's degree was in computer science, and something I learned doing that is that I wasn't a very good computer programmer, and I didn't really like the work. And so we keep seeing in the past few days people having technology problems, internet connections falling away, or something not loading. The organizers of this conference have done a good job sending emails to us, the presenters, saying, make sure your stuff is ready, come on 15 minutes early, sending us the link early. These are great things for them to do. But the thing with technology is there's always going to be problems. And I hated it so much, all of these little problems, that I decided to move to China and be an English teacher. And I learned then that I love teaching. And so that's why I chose to do my master's degree in language education to learn to be a better teacher. And what I found learning about teaching made me enjoy teaching more. And I got to do some interesting teaching. For example, at Silipakon, I taught a course called The Internet for English Teachers. And I don't know if you even have that course anymore because the students could probably do a better job teaching that course to the professors. But when I taught that course, Facebook was still quite new. And all of this, what we called Web 2.0 back then, it was just new for people to be easily able to make content. Oh, and I'm wearing my Silipakon pin. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if my camera's on. And eventually I decided to do my PhD in teaching professors to be teachers. And that's why that's what I do here at I-Shou University, where I am now. So here at I-Shou University, My job tasks include not just working with professors, but also working with staff, teaching undergraduate courses for regular students. And is there a question? And student support. I do a lot of student workshops. So doing all of these different things, it's difficult to find a balance between teaching the language that students need or professors, teaching the content, the skills and knowledge that they need, making sure it's not too difficult, and making sure that it's interesting enough to keep their attention. It takes a lot of time to do this, making custom materials that suit the needs of our students. And I think this is something that's harder for AI to do right now. We know our students better than other people know our students. So it's easier for us to make things that are appropriate and relevant. It's hard to find the time. So now I'm going to move to the practical applications of how I have been using AI in my teaching. And there's nothing more practical than food. So here's some nice pictures of classic Taiwanese food. Maybe you guys have tried bubble tea. I know the first time I tried bubble tea was in Bangkok. What was the name of the mall? In Lat Prao. Well, I was living at Lat Prao. There's a big shopping mall there. It doesn't
Central.
matter. Yeah, it might be Central Lat Prao. That sounds familiar. And there was a Taiwan bubble tea shop there. So the first time I had Taiwanese bubble tea was in Thailand. And so practical applications of AI. Yeah, about a year ago, the first time I used AI in the classroom was for a writing course. So I had to teach a writing course. And traditionally, what I would do when I taught writing is I would give students writing homework. They would go away and write their homework, and they would come back and I would check it. And if students gave me something that was perfect, no mistakes, then I would usually know that they had copied it probably from the internet. And I could just do a Google search for a perfect sentence and find the place that they copied it from. And I knew that they copied it. But with ChatGPT, I couldn't do that anymore. So on the first day, I showed the students a ChatGPT video and I said, look, this is new. It just came out a few months ago. If you're not using it, you should. But in my class, you will have no homework. You will do all of your writing in the classroom where I can see you. And here's a slide that I showed to them. This is a slide that I showed to my students. Because ChatGPT can't write everything for them. That's why they need to learn to write. It can't know how you feel about something. All ChatGPT can really do is collect information from the internet. So it is still important that people learn to write, even though ChatGPT can write some things for us. And now I'm writing my PhD dissertation. And ChatGPT can't possibly write my dissertation for me because nobody has done what I have done for my PhD dissertation. A PhD should be something completely new. And all ChatGPT can do is look at examples on the internet of things that are not new. And yeah, so I said to the students, it can't help you on a classroom test. I'm teaching them to write so that when they have a test in a classroom, they can write. And this is a required course for all of our international students. We want to prepare our students to be successful in our international college programs. But also, I wanted them to know that ChatGPT was there so they could use it for their assignments. And I took the first writing task from our textbook for that course and I put it into ChatGPT. And what I found was ChatGPT made an almost perfect answer. And the only thing I didn't like about this answer was the bullet points with the one word. If the students are going to write an essay, it would be a little bit different. But basically, ChatGPT gave a perfect answer. I would have just needed to change the prompt to say, write an essay. And the first thing I did as a teacher is I thought, okay, but if there's mistakes, then I won't think the students did it. Can the students ask ChatGPT to add mistakes? And ChatGPT said, no, I can't add mistakes. So this is good. Unfortunately, ChatGPT will make mistakes accidentally. And I found this because I did try to see, could ChatGPT help me with my dissertation? And no, I asked it to do a few not very difficult things, and it just filled it with mistakes and bad information. Um, ChatGPT can make it more basic to make it look like our students did it. And you can fool ChatGPT. This was kind of funny. I said to ChatGPT, all right, what if you write it like you're a pirate? Because pirates won't use correct grammar. And so, yeah, ChatGPT had no problem using incorrect grammar because I told ChatGPT, for you to do it correctly, use incorrect grammar. And it said, okay, no problem. So we can fool it, and so could our students. Students are clever. And another thing I do for students here is I offer writing workshops. Any student from the university can come to these workshops. And yeah, as a writing teacher, I've spent a lot of time editing students' work. And now with ChatGPTs, no more editing for me. And also the writing workshops, I need to make lesson plans and have content to teach and ideas. So ChatGPT is a great helper for me as a teacher in deciding what and how I will teach. So as a topic, one day my writing workshop was just teaching my students to use ChatGPT for editing. Once this is done, I'll never have to edit anything again, which is fantastic. And so here's the actual short workshop I use. It's about 50 minutes, these writing workshops. And for my content, I actually just went to ChatGPT and I got my content for the workshop from ChatGPT, asking my students, do you use it? What have you used it for? And how it works. So we've covered some of these things. Yeah. So for me as a teacher, I didn't have to think about the content really at all. A presentation that might have taken me hours to make a year ago, now I can make this presentation in just a few minutes. And yeah, here's a possible essay question. I guess I wrote this essay question because it's about AI. And okay, yeah, I show my students my poorly written essay, and I showed the students my ChatGPT prompt. And one of our previous presenters said, the thing with ChatGPT is you have to give it a good prompt, which is true. If you tell ChatGPT what to do, it will try to do what you want. It doesn't always understand exactly what you want, but here's my prompt where I specifically said, I want feedback to get a better score with details and examples, and also correct my English. So teaching my students to use ChatGPT to teach themselves. Yeah. Um, it's easy for students to ask ChatGPT to do the work for them. What we need to do is teach the students to use ChatGPT to teach themselves. For example, this prompt. And when I did that, ChatGPT created this. At the top, we can see ChatGPT correcting my mistakes. And at the bottom, we can see ChatGPT specifically showing us which mistakes we made and what corrections were made. So that's fantastic. And as a teacher, you can ask the students to give you this to show that they've looked at it. And yeah, ChatGPT, I asked what score this essay might get on IELTS. And ChatGPT says this is just a guess, which is true, but it's pretty close. So if you or your students want to know about how good your IELTS writing might be, ChatGPT can do that assessment for you. And when ChatGPT gives a difficult response where the level of the language is too difficult, it's not useful for our students, especially if you're teaching younger students or if you're teaching students whose English isn't very good. If ChatGPT gives a difficult to read response, it's not useful for them, but it can translate. So here, most of my students for this workshop were Taiwanese students. They use traditional Chinese. ChatGPT did this translation for us. Of course, you guys could have your students translate the feedback from ChatGPT into whatever language you are using. And yeah, my homework for this class, or no, this is maybe an in-class activity. Yeah, this is an in-class activity. These 3 essay questions were written by ChatGPT. I just said to ChatGPT, give me 3 questions, and give the students a little time to do this on their phones so that I can see them going into ChatGPT, doing the writing, using ChatGPT to check their writing, check their IELTS scores, get the translation. So using ChatGPT for editing as my topic for that day and teaching the students to do this. Okay, the other thing I have used ChatGPT for in my writing workshops with students is as a helper for lesson and content ideas. And one of my topics, I wanted to teach paragraph writing. Paragraph writing can be boring. So I said I want it to be communicative, where the students are talking with each other and make it fun. And of course, ChatGPT gave me a nice lesson plan, objectives, materials, step by step by step. I didn't copy that all over to this slide, but we saw in at least one other presentation in the past few days, using ChatGPT for lesson plans. So if you're a teacher and you need to make lesson plans, ChatGPT can do that for you. And again, for content, yeah, I wanted some content about paragraph structures. So I said to ChatGPT, give me some bullet points. Boom, here it is. And another topic I had was the writing process. So I asked ChatGPT for the content. And the first time, it looks like ChatGPT didn't give me what I wanted. So I said, give it to me again, but in a good format for slides to deliver to. And then I have SEL students here. I made a mistake. Should have been ESL students. The great thing about ChatGPT is it sees these mistakes and it knows what you need. Okay, and then it was too difficult. I asked it to simplify. Okay, and then I said, make it 2 slides. And ChatGPT still not giving me what I want, so I said, dude, I just want a few slides to introduce the writing process. Why should the students care? So yeah, if your prompts aren't good, it won't give you exactly what you want. You just have to try a few times, ask it again and again and again, and eventually you should get what you want or need. You just might not always get it the first time. Oh, yeah. And for the writing process, this is one of my slides from that class. Oh, no, this isn't the writing process. This was teaching process writing. Uh, first, then second, if you're writing something in a process. And so ChatGPT suggested that I teach this topic using a recipe. Okay, great. And I chose the recipe pad kapow because this is something that I like to cook. And so this is my actual slide from that presentation to get the students brainstorming to write the paragraph. And here is the sample paragraph that was written by ChatGPT. So I didn't have to write this. I might have edited a bit so it could fit in the slide. Yeah, my actual slide for teaching this in class. And then having the students work in groups. So this was ChatGPT's idea when I asked for a lesson plan. It said, why don't you have the students do this? Okay, perfect. So I made the slides, but ChatGPT made the idea. And then I had the students share their paragraph online. Like Thailand, Line is very popular in Taiwan. That's what we use most of the time. Okay, another thing I do is in addition to writing workshops, I have an English corner for speaking. This is something, again, where any student can come, and it's just 50 minutes, and I try and have something fun for students to practice speaking English. And ChatGPT has been very helpful for me. I want to make custom materials to help my students. And so I've used ChatGPT for making word lists. And with a word list and simple definitions, you can have a matching exercise. And I could have these kinds of matching exercises online. I like to have them on paper, maybe because I'm old, but also because if there's no electricity or if there's internet connection problems, students can do the matching exercises. And if you've ever made your own classroom materials, you know it takes a lot of time. So ChatGPT was very helpful for this. I've used it to just give me a slide explaining grammar points. I've used it to generate gap fill sentences and discussion questions. ChatGPT can make all of this. And for me, as a native speaker with a lot of experience doing this kind of thing, it still would take me a lot of time to do this myself. And so for somebody who is a new teacher or somebody who's using English as a second or other language, it might take even more time. So just use ChatGPT and you can have custom materials for your students with no mistakes very quickly. And so here's some examples where, I've had to ask ChatGPT more than once. Okay, make it more simple, simplify the definitions, now write these sentences. But when ChatGPT gave me the simple verb lists and the definition, I could ask ChatGPT, do I have that here? No. I could ask ChatGPT randomly reorder the definitions, and then I could copy and paste that over. So because it's a random list, the students can do the matching exercise. So again, a matching exercise that to think of the simple definitions and the word lists, and just to make the lists random, this would have taken me hours to do. And the computer could do it in 5 or 10 minutes. And in the bottom right corner here, to make example sentences, grammatically correct sentences for the grammar point that I want to learn with the specific vocabulary that I've taught the students, this would take me so much time. And with ChatGPT, I could just say, make the sentences, and then replace the verbs in the sentences with blank spaces. So easy. And my actual slide again, something I do once I've taught the students the language they need to have a discussion or a conversation, put the chairs in the classroom together in two circles like this so they can speak to each other. And then one of these circles will move. So every student has a new partner and give them questions. So this list of questions was from a day that we were talking about movies. Again, for me, trying to find something interesting for my students, I chose movies for us to talk about, and ChatGPT wrote these questions for me. I could have written the questions, but why? It's so much easier just to ask ChatGPT. Okay. Also, I teach our staff here because we have all of these international programs. We need to have staff who have good English so they can help our international students. And these staff are wonderful. Their English is already quite good, but to help them be constantly improving, the university has a growth mindset, and we give the staff the opportunity to come. And at first, I was teaching them writing in the traditional way, where I would teach them something about writing and I would give them some homework, and they would come with their writing homework and I would check it. But with ChatGPT, I said to the staff, and this is copied from one of our slides that I actually used. On the slide, I said, "You are not students, you are professionals. Your job is to be effective and efficient, so use ChatGPT." And I showed them some examples. Oh, and this picture here's some AR, VR equipment at the university. We've invested a lot in augmented reality and virtual reality equipment. We have special rooms, simulators, this headset, a lot of interesting stuff here. Uh, but anyway, for the staff, I showed them some examples of how ChatGPT could just do the work for them. Write an email, boom, ChatGPT writes the email. Write an email, boom, ChatGPT writes the email. So, as a teacher teaching our staff who are professionals, there's no reason for me to spend a lot of time teaching them small bits of grammar. The most effective thing for the staff to do is to just use ChatGPT to do the writing, which is different from our students who might have to sit and write a test without their phone. So when you're teaching your students, yeah, they need to learn how to write because there will be situations as a student where you can't. But also they need to learn to use ChatGPT because when they get jobs as employees, they should just use it to do the writing. And so when I came here, a major part of my job was just working with the professors. That's why I came. My PhD is in working with professors. I came to I-Shou to work with professors, but I like it here, and so that's why I stay. And in order for me to stay, I have to do this work with students, which is fine. I like teaching students. But the first thing I did with the professors was on AI, was using ChatGPT to make a workshop. And ChatGPT, I used it for 100% of this workshop. And it wasn't great. If I had made this workshop 100%, I think it would have been better. But it would have taken me several days to prepare everything myself to my standard. For me to use ChatGPT to prepare this workshop only took a few hours, and most of that few hours was trying to find a way to make the slides with AI. And this was, like I said earlier, back in August when we didn't have Gamma. Now I could just use Gamma. But this is what the slides looked like in the end for my presentation for professors about using AI in education. And this outline was made by ChatGPT. The content for each of these points was made by ChatGPT. And this slide was made through ChatGPT. I won't tell you how I use ChatGPT to make the slides because it's technical and boring, and just use Gamma. Gamma looks great. And also with professors, I started doing a conversation class as something just to keep the professors interested. One of my conversation classes was about, and this is funny, international conferences. Because professors have to go to international conferences like this conference we're doing now, and they need to speak in English. So to give them a chance to practice their English before they went to a conference, I had this topic. And I went to ChatGPT and I said, I need some intermediate to advanced conversation questions about travel. And ChatGPT was like, yeah, certainly. Here you go. And so I was able to just copy and paste those questions to my slides and take that to the classroom. Okay. This is the actual slide that I took to the classroom with the professors. So we had these as conversation class questions, just sort of basic questions to give them something to talk about. These questions might be a bit difficult for your students if you teach in a high school, but again, you can just ask ChatGPT to give beginner level questions about travel, and ChatGPT will do that for you. I chose intermediate to advanced because the professors I work with have good English already. I'm very lucky. Okay, another course that I taught here was leadership, and this was for our international college. So this was teaching regular university students, I think fourth year undergraduate students. So the students I taught in this course would be about the same age as the students who organized this conference, fourth year undergrads. And on the last day of the course, yeah, I just wanted some sort of fun activities to do. And so I went to ChatGPT and I said, yeah, I need some ideas for the last day of the class to sort of wrap up everything that we've learned. And ChatGPT, so these are not language learning activities. This is not a language course. This is a course on leadership, which is my PhD topic. And ChatGPT had good, useful ideas. Also, teachers have to do a lot of administration. Teachers have a lot of paperwork. I use Microsoft Excel a lot. Microsoft Excel uses math. When you need to do stuff with student scores, there's no reason to spend a lot of time doing the math on paper or on a whiteboard. Microsoft Excel can do all the math for us, but sometimes we don't know how to ask Microsoft Excel to do the math that we want it to do. And you need to use a formula in Microsoft Excel, use equals, and then write the formula. It's like programming or coding Microsoft Excel. And specifically, this was for that writing course I was teaching. I had the students do 10 pieces of writing in the classroom, but I told the students I would only use their top 5 writing scores for their final grade. Because sometimes students are sick, and I didn't want to have special work to make up the scores, or maybe sometimes people have a bad day and they got a low grade. So I only wanted to take the top 5 scores and use that for their final grade. But if I have a class of 40 students and I have 10 pieces of writing, and for each of those 40 students, I have to look at 10 pieces and figure out which are the top 5 marks. Well, that would take a lot of time. ChatGPT could tell me how to tell Microsoft Excel for each student, look at the 10 scores and tell me the top 5 and add those together and put it here. And what I have found using ChatGPT for Excel formulas is it doesn't always work the first time. Sometimes it gives me an error. And I would just go back to ChatGPT and say, no, that gave me an error. And ChatGPT will say, okay, try this. So I don't know if you've ever used Google to help you with Microsoft Excel formulas. It can take a lot of time, but eventually you can read enough on Google to make your formula. With ChatGPT, you can just copy and paste the formula directly that you need. Very helpful. And I use it a lot for translation. It's still not great for translation, but it's usually enough. All right, so in conclusion, I have found ChatGPT generative AI very helpful in saving time to make custom materials, and especially in saving time to check students' writing. And I began showing my institutional and professional context because everybody's different. I can only share what I have done. But yeah, for the past year, I have been using ChatGPT a lot to help me and to help my students. And I've been teaching my students just use it for editing. And and students will use it, and we have to expect that. And students should use it. But we have to question, what about students who don't have a computer at home? That's a bit unfair. We have to question what is the role of the teacher in an AI future? And actually, we've thought about this in the past few days of this conference, and I gave some ideas at the beginning. And oh, yeah, here's some final points on conclusion. AI can tailor education to individual students' needs. AI breaks geographical barriers. AI automates tasks. AI equips students with skills. Emphasizing ethical use ensures fairness and diversity. And if you think these conclusions look good, just remember, I didn't write them. Yeah, I went to ChatGPT and I said, give me 5 powerful bullet points to conclude my presentation. And the first result ChatGPT gave me was too much. So I said, okay, too much, make it shorter. And what we have here is the conclusions from ChatGPT. But I think this is a good conclusion to have at the end of our 2 days together. So thank you for listening. And does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Tylor Burrows. Okay, we have questions from the participants. How has I-Shou University integrated AI into language education, and what specific tools or applications are being used?
Well, so I just showed the ChatGPT. For me specifically, what I am doing, the specific application is ChatGPT.
Yes,
Yeah, I think my
yes, of course.
presentation sort of answers that question.
Yes, we see. Of course, that's very kind of you. Thank you. And next, what challenges or obstacles have been encountered in the implementation of AI for language education, and how has the university addressed these challenges?
Um, so yeah, again, I can show my personal context at the university, and I have to answer that best from a personal standpoint. Um, we are launching a project to give the students more access to resources. The first challenge is that there's so much, so fast. It's so new. And I was asked to find some resources to recommend. And I did a quick Google search, and one thing I found was a list of the top 60 AI tools for language learning. 60, 6-0. Can I remember how to say that in Thai? Nung song sam si hok hok sip.
Yes, very
Yes,
good.
okay.
That's
Yeah, Hope
correct.
City.
Very good. Yes,
Not
Hope City 60.
16, 60
Wow,
AI apps. So this is a challenge for teachers. Uh,
incredible.
yeah, is how do you find the best ones? And there's new stuff all the time. Uh, like I wanted something for the professors to help them making PPT. And last August, I couldn't find something that was free that worked well. And now we have Gamma. Just a few months later, there was Gamma. It works so well. So, what are we going to have in a year from now? We're going to have 600 AI apps for language learning. And who knows? So, I think a huge challenge that I have seen in my work here, and I think this is a challenge all teachers will have, is there's just so much so fast. And in terms of implementation, I think the big challenge is teachers' time. Uh, Teachers wants to do the best thing for their students, and the teachers have a limited amount of time. Most teachers will do the thing that they're used to. And our first speaker, Andrew Lyon, at the beginning of yesterday, Andrew Lyon said how the systems are resistant to change. And this is something I found in my PhD reading as well. um, Governments and schools and teachers and businesses. It's all part of a big system. And systems are resistant to change. When you change one thing, you have to change another thing. Everyone's busy just doing what they're doing, and they don't always want more. So I think one challenge in implementation will be yeah, things are resistant to change. But as teachers, we should know that our students will do what they think is the best thing for them. The students are going to use AI.
So it changed by their conditions, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you for your answer. That might be it might be beneficial for us. Thank you very oh my
Here's my
gosh.
silicone pin. Still haven't.
Yes. It's our course of silicon. Okay. And the last question is, in what way does AI contribute to the development of language proficiency skills such as speaking, listening, reading, and writing among students? And I see from you is writing, right?
Yeah. So I have been using it for writing. The thing with ChatGPT is it's text based. And so it's great for teaching writing, um, for getting things for students to write about the like essay questions, for checking students' writing, for giving students feedback on their writing. ChatGPT can do all of this right now. So for writing classes, I've used it a lot for this. ChatGPT helping for reading. ChatGPT can generate something to read. If you want to have um, a story, if you want to have a story for your students to read that uses specific language, like the vocabulary you have taught to your students. As teachers, you can even keep a list over the year of the vocabulary you have taught to your students. So if you are teaching a reading class, you can use the vocabulary that you've already taught your students over the year, which helps to reinforce that. If you just choose something for the students to read from some website or some book from the library, maybe the words in there aren't the words that you've been teaching your students. Or maybe the level of the story, the grammar is too difficult, or maybe the topic of the story isn't interesting. But if you want to give your students something to read that is interesting to them, that uses a lot of words that you've already taught them so they can review and reinforce, ChatGPT can help you with that. And we've seen examples in the last presentation of today, or the first presentation of today, of how ChatGPT can write quiz questions for you. So if you are teaching reading, ChatGPT can help you to have reading questions, comprehension questions, or AI can help you have comprehension questions. So it's custom materials for your students for reading class, for listening class, or speaking class. AI becomes harder. There are apps which I haven't used, but I know there are now apps where you can speak and it will use some combination of text to voice and voice to text software and tonal analysis to check your English. Oh, no, I did use one. And it didn't work. I can't remember exactly somebody suggested it to me, AI for English pronunciation. And I tried it, and the AI did an assessment of my English, and I spoke as clearly and correctly as I could. And I'm a highly educated native speaker, a former IELTS examiner, and the AI was telling me about my pronunciation mistakes. So it didn't work very well. So for listening and speaking, I don't think the technology is quite there yet. But I mean, just wait 2 months. Maybe in 2 months I'll be wrong, or next week. Certainly in the next couple of years, the technology for helping students with speaking and listening will be better. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I hope so for this case. Okay, thank you for your answer, Mr. Tylor Burrows. And now I will recap about your content and your topic. Thank you. About the recapitulate, Mr. Tylor Burrows started his session by discussing his personal experience in using AI and other technology in his teaching, while mentioning relevance of AI and technology usage in modern classrooms. He then gave us an outline of this session, including two main parts: introduction and practical applications, while also mentioning the outcome that participants will gain from his session. He started talking about his background for a little bit and showed us some useful information about the country of Taiwan and I-Shou University. Further, in the session, he talked about his education background and key tasks at the university. All of this information he presented gave us an idea of the context of I-Shou University. He then moved to practical applications he uses during his classes with a huge focus on ChatGPT. He gave us an example of his utilization of ChatGPT in these writing classes, activities, and workshops, while also making the students aware of the limitation of ChatGPT usage. He mentioned a lot about the experience integrate and ChatGPT into his teaching method while talking about the capabilities, benefits, and some drawbacks of using ChatGPT, and also showed us some examples of information generated by ChatGPT. He mentioned how ChatGPT can help us with our lesson and content ideas and talked about how to effectively write ChatGPT prompts and use it wisely, while also noting that ChatGPT might mistake us and not generate the exact thing we want. He recommended for those who would like to get custom materials without wasting too much time to create them yourself. Use ChatGPT wisely and carefully to create them for you, which will make our life as educators much more convenient. However, only using ChatGPT without adding any of your own ideas may result in poor quality of work. Furthermore, we also mentioned that ChatGPT can be integrated into many other programs, for example, creating Excel formulas. He concluded that generative AI is extremely helpful and recommended that both teachers and students should use it, while also saying that we have to also consider the issues that may occur while using such tools. Thank you for Mr. Burrows. Um, I will thank you for you again for gracing us with your presence and for sharing your expertise. Your contribution has made this seminar memorable. We look forward to the possibility for welcoming you back in the future. Thank you, Mr. Tylor Burrows.
Thank you.